The settlers never saw it coming. One moment their small colony was quiet, and the next the horizon filled with smoke and the sound of war drums. They had always believed they were safe, confident in their superior weapons and the strength of their fortifications. But this time they were facing something far beyond their expectations. It wasn't a small raid or an isolated attack. The Native American nations had united, forming a powerful alliance that no one had predicted. What if the European colonizers, instead of battling scattered tribes, had encountered a united front of native warriors from the very beginning? Could the course of history have been completely changed? In the late 15th century, when Europeans first set foot on American soil, they saw opportunity, vast lands and untapped resources, but they underestimated the resilience of the Native American peoples. What if the tribes had set aside their differences and united their strengths to create a powerful alliance? As the first ships arrived, the Iroquois Confederacy, already a model of cooperation, reached out to other nations. The Lakota, the Cherokee, the Apache, and countless others joined forces, recognizing that their survival depended on their unity. Leaders from across the continent came together to form a great council where they forged a pact. They would no longer fight alone. The Europeans quickly noticed something different. Their expeditions inland, once easy, became perilous. Groups disappeared without a trace. Paths that had been open were blocked by skilled native warriors. The settlers' advanced weapons, once their greatest advantage, became ineffective in the unfamiliar terrain. The forests, rivers, and mountains turned into battlegrounds where the Europeans were consistently outmatched. Colonial settlements, once thought safe, were attacked in the dead of night. Forts fell under siege, unable to withstand the united native forces. European reinforcements sent across the Atlantic were intercepted before they could land. The colonies, instead of expanding, found themselves shrinking, with their futures growing uncertain. In this alternate reality, the balance of power shifted. The Native American alliance learned to adapt, using captured European weapons to strengthen their defenses. The unity forged under the threat of invasion became unbreakable, and soon the European dream of conquest began to crumble. Some nations withdrew entirely, their ambitions shattered by the strength of the united native resistance. The Americas, under native control, became a symbol of resistance. Instead of being overrun by colonizers, the continent remained in the hands of its original inhabitants. Native cultures, languages, and traditions flourished, shaping a world far different from the one we know today. History in this world had been rewritten. The impact of this united front went beyond the Americas. In Europe, the failure of the colonies spread like wildfire. Tales of entire fleets lost to native warriors circulated in royal courts. European monarchs, once eager to divide up the New World, began to reconsider their ambitions. The riches they had hoped to seize now seemed unreachable, blocked by an alliance that had turned the continent into an impenetrable fortress. The economic consequences were devastating. The resources that had fueled Europe's growth, gold, timber, fur, never made it back across the ocean. Without these riches, European empires began to falter. Instead of expanding, they found themselves facing internal unrest and financial collapse. Meanwhile, the Native American nations flourished. Their unity brought stability, allowing them to rebuild stronger than before. Trade routes were established between the tribes and distant allies. The Americas, once seen as a land to be conquered, became a beacon of resilience, progress, and independence. Great cities rose, built upon the foundations of ancient native civilizations. The Iroquois Confederacy expanded its influence, becoming a guiding force in diplomacy and governance. The Lakota and Apache established formidable military alliances that secured their lands for generations. The unity of the native nations also sparked a cultural renaissance. Art, philosophy, and science thrived, blending traditional practices with new innovations. The Americas, once a target of conquest, became a source of admiration. European explorers, now unwelcome in the Americas, turned their attention elsewhere. However, the defeat they had suffered made indigenous peoples in other regions more cautious and better prepared to resist colonization. The ripple effects of the Native Alliance were felt across the globe. The world, shaped by the strength of the Native Alliance, looked vastly different. Instead of a global map dominated by European empires, the Americas remained a stronghold of indigenous power. The names of great native leaders, once overshadowed by European conquerors, were now celebrated around the world. Figures like Hiawatha and Sitting Bull were not only remembered for their bravery, but for their wisdom in uniting the tribes. As centuries passed, the Native American nations remained powerful, influencing global politics, trade, and culture. Their unity, born out of necessity, became a cornerstone of their identity. The Americas, no longer under the shadow of colonization, thrived as a federation of sovereign nations, each contributing to the strength and prosperity of the continent. The European colonizers, who once sought to rule the Americas, found themselves visiting a land they had failed to conquer. Diplomats and merchants came to the great cities of the Americas, marveling at the strength and unity of the native nations. Trade flourished, but on terms set by the native people. The wealth of the Americas remained in the hands of its original inhabitants, fueling their continued growth and success. And so, the question lingers, what if the Native American nations had truly united against the European invaders from the start? In this alternate reality, the answer is clear. The power of unity and resilience transformed the fate of an entire continent and forever altered the course of history.